Bulavinaka, and welcome to the launch of Merchant Finance new logo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bulavinaka, and a very good evening to you all. I think the chairman of Merchant Finance said a lot about Merchant Finance itself. And a lot of people have said, what's in the launch of a logo? What's the big deal about changing a logo? The reality of the matter is that at most times, the change of logo actually signifies a very significant philosophical shift of any organization. And that is to capture the new mindset, perhaps capture new technology, new way of thinking, ability to do business processes in a different way, ability to adapt to technology, technological changes. And of course, in this particular instance, merchant finance, of course, has the lead share in the market in non-banking financial institutions. I think it is very, very important to also understand that we have a wonderful opportunity with merchant finance to be able to grow the capital markets in Fiji. And as has already been said and indicated by the FHL board, that merchant finance, we hope, will be listed by the first quarter of next year. And that is, of course, very significant, because as anybody would know that to be able to grow your economy, to be able to get and share the wealth, you need to grow the capital markets. Recently, of course, as you know, that EFL, we've had a divestment of our shares, 20% has been divested to FNPF. I'm sure Fijian Holdings, given the rigors that FNPF went through and did the due diligence, that Fijian Holdings would find it a wonderful opportunity for investment too. But government has at the same time indicated that we would also list EFL on the stock market. I think it is very important, ladies and gentlemen, to understand that Fiji has a very robust financial system. And with a robust financial system, we actually need to also understand that you need the financial institutions that actually manage in a prudent manner, in a transparent manner, because that's what gives confidence. Recently, some of you may have seen, or may have heard actually, that Fiji's credit rating has now gone up from has gone up to BB minus from B plus by Standard & Poor's. Now, it's really interesting to know the reason as to why they've given us this increase in our rating as a country. And that is because of the fiscal consolidation in 2019-2020 budget and the consistency in policy. That is very, very important for us to understand, that notwithstanding changes around us, as you know, some of you would know who follow international markets, that there is a trade war looming between US and China. Already the US has imposed a 25% tariff on Chinese goods. The Chinese have indicated a retaliatory measure in respect of the $75 billion import market that they have. USA in turn has said they'll issue, probably increase it by another 5% to 30%. This of course has enormous impact on their trading partners. So Australia, for example, the Australian dollar recently, only a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, dropped to its lowest since 2009. It currently sits at about 69 cents to the US dollar. Now, the Australian stock market lost over $60 billion in one day, $80 billion in 2 days. Now, of course, there's other sort of indications of perhaps a recession sitting in, but what is really interesting is the US bond market, the inversion of the yield has been quite significant. In other words, people are now have less confidence in the 10-year bond market, US 10 bond market, than they have with the 2-year bond market. So that is generally an indication that perhaps recession might set in. Now, these are very sort of sobering statistics, sobering facts that we need to be aware of. However, of course, we also need to understand, should there be, for example, a slowing down in markets like Australia, it can have an impact on our tourism sector, because nearly 50% of our arrivals come from Australia. However, at the same time, on the flip side, there is an opportunity for countries like Fiji that are not fully integrated into the global market. So in other words, we are somewhat buffered in a way, and we need to be able to be resilient about it. We saw a few months back, there seemed to be a bit of panic in the market. Interest rates were going up for deposits. There seems to be a bit of scramble. That's all stabilized now. Our liquidity is in excess of $600 million. nearly double to what it was at the end of last year in 2018. We have, of course, seen I've got some statistics here. Our inflation at the moment sits at 0.7%. And of course, our foreign reserves sits at $2.2 billion. So we're in a very good space from that perspective. And I think the reality of the matter is the markets, as far as the interest rates were concerned, have now stabilized. You've seen some sort of sanity returning. But the point I wanted to make from this, ladies and gentlemen, is that we need to have the level of tenacity to be able to stand up to these kind of fluctuations in the global market, and to be able to understand that yes, there may be a certain level of impact, however, that we are in a way buffered too. So we need to be creative. So I actually applaud Merchant Finance with this new initiative. I applaud them wanting to list their company on the South Pacific Stock Exchange. As you know, that Fiji will be hosting the World Exchange Congress next year, which is actually a fantastic opportunity for us to be able to showcase Fiji and the ability to showcase what is available here in the Pacific. I think also, ladies and gentlemen, there's a number of things that we are doing, and I think it's important to reiterate some of those measures that gives confidence. As you know, with Digital Fiji program, we now have the ability to online register and reserve names for your companies. We have a number of major projects at the moment that we are currently talking to some major investors, including some of the statutory organizations, where they have again regained that level of confidence. So you will, in the next 12 months or so, see a number of new projects, infrastructure projects, not public sector driven necessarily, but either semi-public or private sector projects that will come to the fore. And I think that type of impetus is very, very critical. I'd also urge you to be able to understand the numerous incentives that have been put in place to be able to ensure that we get a lot more private sector participation. The government, of course, is very keen to ensure that we have consistency in those policies to be able to encourage investment in that area. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do not necessarily want to make a long speech, but to be able to say to you, my key message is, take a leaf out of merchant finance. They're notwithstanding some of the global trends around. They're actually investing in the future. They contribute, the statistics I were given, they contribute 25% towards FHL's group profits. Now, that's a quarter of the profits of FHL. So I think there's enormous opportunity there. We, of course, they're in a very competitive environment too. There's about 6 or 7 banks that we have, licensed banks, and then, of course, we have the financial institutions. And that, of course, can only mean good news for the consumers. We have now the new Securities Act, where the Reserve Bank is managing that. A lot of people had actually, rejected it from the beginning or said it won't actually work. But now the number of registrations have actually, exponential growth in the number of registrations, which is simplifying the financial system, simplifying, of course, the taxation system. So there's a lot of good news. Many of the people I see in this room are investors, are people who work in the financial sector. Please be buoyant about it, be able to know that how you can position Fiji into a much better space. Because the reality is, if you look at economies throughout the world and throughout history, in particular post-1900s, countries that have been able to make those interventions in the market when it was seemingly down on the downward trend have actually excelled really well. And they're the ones who have actually taken the opportunity. So I urge all the business people, those people who are the clients of merchant finance, take this opportunity, work with merchant finance, work with the policymakers. We are, of course, carrying out a review, for example, of the business processes of Fiji Revenue and Customs Services. Participate in that. The chairman is from JAX, as you know, and he's there, and we've got a deputy chair who is at the Fiji Employees Federation. Dilip Khatri, of course, is the chair, and the deputy chair is the president of Fiji Employees Federation, Sandeep Chauhan. So work with these people, give your input into that, and let's all work together to be able to take a wonderful opportunity out of this space that is actually created that may seemingly seem negative, but in fact there's a lot of positive opportunities from that. So once again, congratulations to Merchant Finance, and we look forward to the launch of the logo. Naka, thanks.
In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to our new look. Welcome to Merchant Finance.